Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And when I started this show in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women-owned businesses and help women succeed by providing resources and valuable tips from other women and men, small business owners. In each interview, my guests speak openly about their triumphs, the scary times, and tough decisions they had to make along the way. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strengths to achieve success on their own terms. Hi everyone, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. So glad you could join us today. And you can find this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on many other podcast platforms, depending where you're listening right now. So if you want to find the links, you can go to womenentrepreneursradio.com and click on podcasts in the menu. And then you'll find links of the different platforms, and you can find your preferred one if you have a favorite you like to use. And also the site will have bios of the show guests and articles of interest to women in business. If you are on Apple Podcasts, if you could take a moment to just leave a rating and review, since that helps the show to be found by more listeners. And that would be wonderful. And if you could visit my site at dbaileycoach.com, you can find out more about me and my books and online classes. So we're going to get started today with my guest. Christine Hofbeck is a consulting actuary progressing from individual contributor to executive advisor for several massive and influential global organizations. She's an in-demand keynote speaker and holds degrees from both the University of Pennsylvania and MIT. And in 2017, Chrissy competed on CBS's hit reality show, Survivor. She's traveled through all 7 continents and enjoyed some moments of insanity through skydiving, hang gliding, and a polar plunge in Antarctica. So welcome to the show, Christine.
Hi, Deb. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that sounds very interesting, so I hope that you're sure.
Yeah, I do have a little bit of an interesting background for someone who does math for a living.
Yes, because usually that's not what you think about when you think about math and things like that. So that's definitely a switch, you know. But before we get started on our topic, and everyone, we're going to be talking about communication styles and remote workers and things like that, which have definitely become quite the topic these days with a lot of people working from home and perhaps wanting to stay that way. If you could please share, how did you get started in the work that you do?
Sure. So I am an actuary. So for anyone who doesn't know what an actuary is, we measure and manage future financial risk. So essentially it's a lot of mathematics. It's predicting things that might happen in the future. And I have just always loved math. I was one of those kids that was my favorite subject. I really loved it. I think I'm going to go be an actuary. We have to take a lot of tests to become credentialed in our career. And I really like taking the tests. I did really well at them. And, so I have very much enjoyed this life as an actuary. Oddly enough, though, I went off and did these other things besides being an actuary. I became this, motivational speaker or keynote speaker, general session speaker, talking about a lot of professional topics. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I went off and played the crazy reality TV game Survivor, which was amazing. And I came in second place. And then I decided one day that I was going to write a book. So, it's been a little bit all over the place, but life is good. And I think that as humans, we're capable of much more than we think. So.
Wow. Well, that's really different. Yes, that's really different. And I think it really goes against the stereotype of the person who's into math and how people might think that is. And really that's, people are much more complex than that.
Yeah, right. And it's so funny because I think there are a lot of people who are in a particular profession that they chose for themselves and loved, but sometimes they think, I wish I could do these other things. And the truth is, you can do these other things. You can do it, right? Your dreams can become your to-do list. So, I went off and did a lot of things, but maybe there's someone out there who's listening who's thinking, oh, I always wanted to X, Y, Z. So, just, start working towards it. But, so I've had this kind of crazy mishmash of a life that has been full of experience.
Well, that's a really great thing to say because a lot of times you're right. People will think I can't do this because I'm doing that. And they kind of get stuck in that mold that perhaps society says, well, you shouldn't do this because, it's irresponsible or whatever they say. And people really just end up wishing and dreaming.
It's funny. I remember when I was a kid and my mom was 40. And she said, I've always wanted to be a doctor. And I wish I could go to medical school, but she felt that she was 40, right? She couldn't go to medical school. And now she's, 70 and she looks back and says, I wish I had gone to medical school when I was 40 because I would have had a great career as a doctor. So, and maybe that rubbed off on me a bit, that I thought there are these great things that you can go out and do, which is why when someone said to me something like, oh, you should write a book, I thought, oh, maybe I'll do that. Oh, you should, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. The time is going to pass irregardless. What are you going to do with it?
I think right now we're all hoping time will pass.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic.
Oh my gosh, topic for another day.
Yeah, it's been a very, very interesting year for all of us, I think. But so when we talk about you're saying the secret to the remote workers' success is communication styles. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I don't think we've mentioned that I wrote this book called Winning Conditions that talks about this a lot more. And the idea of this book is that the amount of success that you have in your life is based on far more than simply the work that you do, right? You want to complete quality work, whatever your work is, service or results or solutions or strategies or whatever that is. But the amount of success that we have in life is also based on the way that we deliver that work to other people and to our colleagues, to our customers, to our business partners, right? And delivering it in a way that makes them want us to win, that makes them want to celebrate us, recognize us, give us a seat at the table, trust us, and that sort of thing. And communication techniques obviously is a huge part of that, especially now that we're working remotely, right? Many of us are home now because of this pandemic and working hard every day. And the question is, how do you let other people in on this great stuff that you're doing in a way that enables them to, again, trust you, want to do that. And there are some things that you can do. I'll start with the first one, which is huge, which is be visible. So many of us have a camera on our computer, and I know it's hard. We all get Zoom fatigue, right? It's really important that if you can turn that camera on, that you turn the camera on, if you can, right? And I know it's not always possible. I know sometimes the house is a mess and the kids are fighting in the background and we haven't taken a shower yet. And sometimes we don't want to. Right now, I am definitely in my closet right now doing this podcast, but when you are visible to other people, I hate to say they remember that you're there. They remember that you're there. They can see you actively being engaged. All right. So then the question is, well, how do you be actively engaged if you're not on camera? Maybe it's a telephone call. You really need to stay actively engaged through your tone, through keeping your energy, through not multitasking and playing, solitaire while you're on that really does come through the phone. People can tell when you're engaged and not engaged. Right? That's important. Then there's other things that you can do, to keep yourself, I'll say, quote unquote visible. I'm making air quotes right now. And that's in things like, sometimes I even hate to do this myself, but I'm going to say it anyway, posting on social media. right? So if you can do a post on LinkedIn, it reminds your network that you're out there. And that's hard for a lot of us. What the heck do I have to say? Why do people want to listen to what I have to say? Maybe you don't do a post, but maybe you comment on someone else's post. That gets your name out there. Again, the more you can start to make yourself quote unquote visible in some way, the more people think of you actually as a winner, right? As successful. So those are some things that people might want to try.
That's really a very interesting thing you said about making, I guess, engaging on other posts if you can't really think of what you want to say at that moment. Because I don't think that always occurs to people.
Right. You know, it's interesting when I go through, if anybody opens their LinkedIn, you know, if anyone happens to be on LinkedIn, you'll see posts come up and I might look on my feed, right? And if you and I are connected, it will say Deborah Bailey liked this. Deborah Bailey commented here. So even though that's not your post, your name has been made visible to me. So what do I think? Oh yeah, Deborah Bailey. Oh yeah, I remember her. Oh, she's awesome, or whatever. You know, you have thoughts rather than fading into the woodwork and forgetting who that person is. So, you know, I do know that there are some people who decide that every morning they're going to open up LinkedIn and spend 10 minutes and just comment here or comment there, you know, maybe make a post, but if that's not your thing, that's okay too. Just to keep themselves visible.
That is a really good idea, I think, because a lot of times people I see on there who may just even have a profile, but they don't really particularly fill it in very well. And you wonder, well, okay, we have this one line here that you were at this particular job or this school or whatever. It doesn't really say anything about who the person is. And I guess that a lot of times either people don't have the time or they don't feel comfortable sharing so much. Maybe that's it.
I think you're right. And you know, when you even think about like what you just said about sometimes you set up your profile and you don't really put much on it. I mean, we could even get into the conversation of sharing your value because even something as simple as okay, so LinkedIn or really any social media site or even your resume oftentimes has this one-liner header where you say what you are. And most people in that place, they put their job, they put their role, or they put their profession. So I might put, you know, vice president actuary or whatever I am, right? But the reality is when you put something like that, you're not actually sharing your value. Like that's your role, but that's not your value. So it's really nice when you can also include, I think I have something like, guiding great people and great organizations toward winning outcomes, right? It's a value statement. So, you know, that's another way that when you're being visible to other people, you have to remember what you're projecting, you know, and you really do want to project the greatness that is you. Everyone has greatness inside of them.
And that's another good point because I think a lot of times people are so focused on this is the title or the role and not on the value.
Right. And you can put both. You absolutely can put both, right?
That's
you could
true.
put, you know, graphic designer, but, you know, and then add all the, you know, something cool that you did or something fun or whatever just to kind of catch people's eyes. So, but I think that you do really, especially in this remote world, all the time, but especially in this remote world, you really do want to be mindful that you are projecting something that you want other people to pick up on. And everyone has so much to offer, so don't sell yourself short.
And I guess also when people are in conversation, because you know a lot of times when you'll connect with someone on LinkedIn, this drives me a little bit crazy, but you'll connect and then 5 minutes later it's, well, let's have a conversation.
Oh my gosh, it drives me crazy too. I know. Do you have 5 minutes next week? Here's my calendar. Yeah, I know. I wonder if sometimes those people have success with this. So, you know, it's interesting because one of the things that I talk about in winning conditions is that when you engage with someone else let's just say in a conversation, okay, you want to try to engage in a way that's motivating to the other person, right? So if I'm delivering my work, I want to deliver it in a way that's motivating to them. So if they want to hear a fun anecdote about why my work is so awesome, tell them that. If they want to hear all the facts and figures about why this work is the best solution, then I'm going to tell them that, right? If they want to hear all the experts, and there's different things that we can share. But, I do think that's the issue with people reaching out for a 5-minute call. Like, it doesn't work with me and you, but there must be people that works with. So.
True.
But,
that's a good point. Yeah. There have to be those people that say, oh yeah, that's great. But after a while, you're like, I don't even know who you are yet. I don't know what's going on. And I just, connected with you.
I know. You know, the one that also gets me, this is the other one that I get, is somebody will connect with me and then they'll send me a note that says, if you spend 15 minutes with me, I can help you take your strategy to the next level. And I'm thinking, You don't even know what my strategy is. Like, how are you going to take it to the next level? How did you just insult me in the first one sentence of your connection?
They're just sure that your strategy needs work.
I think they think that everyone's strategy needs work or something, but it's like very insulting. So there definitely are ways that you can connect with people that are winning conditions, not insulting conditions. Right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people need to learn that a little bit because it does get a bit much. And then I kind of get discouraged from even connecting because I'm like, oh, okay, is this going to be one of those, kind of things where you just immediately you're supposed to just, go see this video or whatever.
Right. I hear you. You know what? While we're on this conversation though, actually another important thing is, and hopefully people feel comfortable with it, but put your picture up there. Put a picture where you can put a photograph, because that's another thing. There actually is something that happens in our human brains that says that familiarity breeds liking, that when we become familiar with something, we actually like it more. This was studied a great deal a few decades ago with organisms, and how they had this sort of like, might have been even frightened of something to start with, and then the more they became familiar with it, the more you like it, you accept it, you want to say yes. And so when you put your picture out there, and again, this is also like being video on a call, and people see you, they actually begin to like you more. They actually begin to accept your ideas more. And that can lead to opportunity that you might not have even been aware of. I actually have a funny story about this. I was at an industry meeting, and there had to be a couple of thousand people there, and I had been conversing with someone over a work topic, but I had never met him in real life, over LinkedIn, and we literally passed each other in the hallway. And I mean, we stopped, and he was like, Christine? And I was like, Steven? And it was because we both had our pictures there, and it was so great, and we ended up having breakfast together, and we ended up, it was a really nice working relationship then after that. But,
that's great.
Yeah. So that's just another tip too. Another thing about being visible, it creates a sense of familiarity. And this is why I tell people, like, it's okay to go to the gym and say that you're creating opportunities, because again, you're being seen, right? You're being seen. So all those things are good things.
Well, that's a great idea. And I think a lot of people don't take advantage of it probably because they're not comfortable, or they're trying to kind of hide a little bit, and then they don't really complete what they're doing in their profile. And a lot of times if you don't see some kind of picture, then you begin to kind of either not really think about them, or you just kind of go, well, okay, is this really a completed profile? Can I really trust this person? That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I think what you just said is the key too. Can you trust the people? I know there are people who will never accept a connection from someone who doesn't have a picture because they feel that they're getting scammed. They think it's a scam. Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
So
that's true in a lot of other social media platforms. So it's kind of a tough thing for people who may not be comfortable with that. But I think going into this whole new kind of working thing, I think it's going to be hard to not do something.
Yeah, I agree. And I think at the end of the day, again, we all have to remember that we all add value, right? We all add value. We all have something to offer. And I really do believe that other people believe about you what you project onto them. I have this great story from when I first started working and about this, that I started working my very first job out of college, right? First day of work, I started with this one of my colleagues who was also her very first day of work. So we were both new hires. We had very similar backgrounds, similar education and all this. We were both actuaries working on exactly the same clients, the same work, everything. And everybody raved about her all day long. Like all day long, they raved about her. I loved her too. She was like absolutely amazing. And the whole time I'm thinking like, why doesn't anybody rave about me? I'm doing the same thing and nobody's saying like, they don't think I'm so great, right? And what I finally realized was, her name was Rosalind, the way that she interacted with people led them to think about her in a certain way. And I noticed it in this particular example. When someone would praise her for her work, they would say, hey, Roz, great job on that project. Her response would be, thank you so much. I worked really hard on it. Right? Something like that, right? Not bragging, just, oh, thank you. I worked really hard. Or she'd say, oh, thank you. I loved working on that project. And so what he began to do is give her more and more work. They thought, oh, gee, Roz loves working on this challenging work. We're going to give her more. Now, when they said to me, Christine, great job on that project, I suppose I was being humble, discreet, who knows? I would say, oh, it wasn't a big deal. I repeated what we did last year. Oh, it was easy, right? So what I was telling them was that the work I was doing was the easy work. I just did what we did last year. And so they began to stop praising me because they thought the stuff I was doing wasn't that great. And they thought it because I told them so.
Right.
And so that was when I started realizing, like, wow, in a way, the way that we communicate, the way that we almost even feel about ourselves, we're telling other people how to think about us. So you almost have to get into a mindset that, yeah, I am valuable. This is good stuff. And you can communicate in not a braggy way, right? If you think what Rosalind said, thank you so much. I loved working on that project. That's not bragging. That's not putting anyone down. That is very gracious, in fact.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of times that women don't always do that. We don't always claim that credit for the work you put into it or try sometimes downplay.
I think we do. I think we downplay ourselves a lot. Even with something as simple as, I love your sweater. And we'll say, this old thing?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Or someone will say, that's a delicious dinner, and we'll go, oh my gosh, I just heated it up out of a box.
Yes.
Right? Now, I actually went to I'm going to tell another story about my mom. I can't believe I'm telling 2 stories about my mom now. But I recently went to my mom's house, okay? And she made the best dinner. It was these chicken cordon bleus. I'm like, Mom, this is the best chicken cordon bleus. And she answered, this is how she answered me, and it was so great. She said, I am so glad that you like it. Have more. Before you leave, I'm going to show you the box. I bought them right at Costco. You can get them. I'll tell you. But so what my mom did is she didn't lie about it, but she didn't put herself down.
Right.
Right? She said, I'm so glad you love them. Let me fill you in on my secret. Right? It was so great. And I think that we need to do more of that where we're accepting that, and again, you can do it in not a braggy way. Yeah. Thank you. I love that, this sweater is one of my favorites. Right?
Yeah. And that's definitely not often what people do.
No, well, men do it a lot. Men are like, thank you. This is the best sweater in the whole planet. But, I shouldn't say that. They don't all. They don't all. My husband is, he's a lot like me, and he doesn't, it's hard for him to take praise, so I should.
Yes, but a lot of them do.
So funny.
But yeah, unfortunately, it's that kind of downplaying, or, oh, I just got it on sale, oh, I just found it in the closet. It's downplaying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that does too is it almost invalidates the compliment that you got. So then the other person almost doesn't even want to compliment you again because you've just told them that their last compliment was invalid, So when someone's saying to me, Christine, nice job on that project, and I'm going, I just repeated what we did last year, it kind of invalidates the comment in the first, the compliment, right?
Yes.
So, it's little things like that that we can keep doing this same awesome work, but if we can slightly change up the way that we're delivering it, you can get really massively better outcomes.
And that really is important to note for the people who are working from home and feel that they may feel like they're going to be forgotten because they're not in the office all the time. And I know a lot of people feel that way. Like I've overheard coworkers saying that they would prefer to work from home. This was before all of this happened, but he felt like we have to be here. And pretty much in the office I was in, and people were just having conference calls with the different, offices and people in different parts of the world. So you weren't always even in office with your team.
Right.
But they felt that they had to be there and make that commute because I guess, well, if you don't, what's going to happen?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's curious. I'm curious to see what kind of world we're going to go back to after this is over. And hopefully we'll be able to take the best parts of both worlds. Hopefully people will be allowed some sorts of flexibility. I think, though, to really move forward most successfully, it's going to need to be some sort of hybrid. That's just my own personal opinion.
Yeah, I could definitely see that because I think there's a lot of types of work that people could do both. And in some cases, you could have the flexibility to be in another location. So why not? And I think that hopefully will continue in a good way, but then you realize there are so many other economic effects.
That's right. That's right. And I think that for those people who end up working all the time from home, whether you choose to or whether you're sent there by your office, I think that you're really going to need to keep in mind this idea of keeping yourself visible in some way so that people remember you're out there, so that they remember that you are working hard every single day and doing an awesome job. So I think that's going to be the challenge, but it's definitely doable. But it's work.
Yeah, I think so. Especially if people aren't really used to that, of thinking of it that way. All these different structures have been in place for commuting and being at a location in an office. But it really comes down to communication, as we know. For some people, that's not easy.
That's true. It's true. And you know what else? Zoom fatigue is a real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, after a while, you get tired of being on the phone all the time, right? It's just a little different. So those are also challenges that we will get through, but they're challenges for sure. The other big one too is that your workday isn't done when you get in the car and drive home.
Yes. That's really a big one.
So how do you manage that? How do you stop looking at your email at 8:00 at night without having it appear that you're lazy? Right?
Oh my God.
Like, are you kidding me? It's 8:00 at night, right? Now I need to be spending time with, my spouse or my partner or my kids or my friend or whomever, myself, but I think that these are all challenges, and that's something that's hard. It's almost hard to turn it off a little bit, sometimes. So, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, that's very true too, because if you're in a location, then you get up and you go at a certain time and it's kind of like, okay, that's that. But if you're always, in a sense, at work, then how do you turn that off? You just really have to say, well, at this point, this is off, this computer's off, or whatever it is I'm doing.
Yeah, right. Just put it away. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you an embarrassing secret. When COVID started, I was a little bit like, wow, I can be in my pajamas all day. Okay. So I was really psyched. If you look at my Instagram, like every other page, I'm like, doing my work in my pajamas. Oh, here I am in my pajamas again, right? But after a while, I was like, kind of recently, because this went on for about 4 or 5 months. After a while, I realized that I was having a hard time actually separating, because now when I was like working all day in my pajamas, now at night when I'm actually in different pajamas, it still felt like work time to me.
Right.
So then I realized that, okay, if I actually get dressed during the day, not just from the waist up, because you really nicely dressed from the waist up for your Zoom calls, but, you can wear your pajama bottoms all day. No one will ever know. But, I realized that it was sort of a nice way to break it at the end of the day then that I was, done working. So, but anyway.
Well, that's it too, because if you really don't have to get dressed up and you're just kind of casual and to the point where you're really casual, then you start to get used to that, and it's like,
Oh, so funny. So funny.
Well, I have to go back to the other things that I was doing. I don't know. Should I? Yeah. But right now, Christine, could you please share with everyone where they can find out more about you and your book?
Yes. So many places. I do have a website that is called ChristineHofbeck.com. You can find me there. If you are on LinkedIn and you want to connect, I'm at Christine Hofbeck, but don't ask me for a 5-minute phone call right after, and don't tell me that you're going to bring my strategy to the next level. Actually, you can say both of those things because they will make me laugh if you tell me that you heard our conversation on this podcast. That would be great. I'm on Instagram and Twitter as the Real Chrissy H and the Real Chrissy Hofbeck, where I'm generally talking about nonsense on those two places. So that's nothing serious in either of those. But, those are all ways that you can reach me. And if you want to buy my book, which is called Winning Conditions: How to Achieve the Professional Success You Deserve by Managing the Details That Matter, that is for sale anywhere that you like to buy your book. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, online, in the store, any of your indie bookstores, you should be able to, check that out.
Wonderful. So how did you decide then that you wanted to do Survivor?
Okay. So if you rewind about 20 years, I heard there was going to be a new show on TV called Survivor that sounded really awesome to me. And I sat down and watched the first episode, and I thought, this is the greatest show I've ever seen in my entire life. But I was 5 months pregnant at the time, so I couldn't apply. But as soon as that baby was birthed, I started sending in applications back in 2001. And I sent in applications for around 16 years. And yeah, and eventually my phone rang, and it was CBS Casting, and I thought that my friends were punking me. I didn't believe that. I was like, there is no way. And anyway, I ended up going through the whole casting process, and then they picked me to go play the game. So wow. I played a couple of years ago, and I ended up doing really well, and it was a really great and crazy and wonderful and horrible experience altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it would be.
Absolutely life-changing, though. Absolutely life-changing in really, really having a chance to identify the things that are important. It was great. I'm glad that I did it. It was a fun adventure. So for anybody who wants to watch, it was season 35. The title of my season, which was a total mouthful, was, Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers. So
oh, wow.
Terrible.
Oh my gosh. And where was that one located?
So we filmed in Fiji. So, people say, well, wasn't Fiji so beautiful? And yes, Fiji really is, it's like amazing, right? It would be more amazing if you were in a nice resort and had a bed to sleep in.
Right.
We slept outside in the rain. And I'll tell people, it is a real game. So we are literally on camera for 24 hours a day, even while we sleep. Oh, there is, really no privacy. I lasted the entire game, which was 39 days. So for almost 6 weeks, I did not take a shower. I did not brush my hair. I did not brush my teeth. I did not change my clothes.
Oh my gosh.
I lived outside the entire time. I did not go inside at all for 6 straight weeks. So I ate so many bugs and ants, and the rats would come chew holes in our clothes at night. So
oh my god.
It was crazy. It was crazy. But, it was also crazy fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what to say.
And you know what else is so interesting? I'll say, if there are any Survivor fans that happen to be listening, or even reality TV, after having watched the show for so long, when I got out there to play the game, I really expected there to be retakes. Like, the host is Jeff Probst, and he's so amazing, and I fully expected him to explain a challenge and go, okay, hold on, take 2, let's do that again. Absolutely not. Survivor when I tell you it is real, everything is done one time, and if it's done bad or they don't get it, then it doesn't go on the TV. Like, it really is just cameras, just video and audio, everything else is happening. So yeah, that was a really, really fun thing to see as I was playing that game. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess how in the world do you get used to always being observed?
Yeah, that's really hard.
It seems like, wow.
Yeah, that's really hard. So like bodily functions are just like, that's like the,
oh my God.
I'm just going to say, like you wake up in the morning and there's like a camera right in your face and you're like, did I just fart 5 minutes? Like, I don't even remember. Is that on camera?
Wow.
So, but at the same time, again, you really get into the fact of we're all human beings and it's okay. It's okay. So.
Wow. So I guess after something like that, you really come back with a different way of looking at things.
Yeah. And I would say this was my biggest takeaway from that experience. Well, I'll tell you a little story first. So I wanted to play this game for 16 years and couldn't wait to play, wanted to play. It was my dream to play. I finally get called to play. I step one foot on the beach and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a total disaster. Like, I had this awful fraud syndrome, right? Which a lot of women have this too. And I really thought like, oh my gosh, I fooled them. And I felt like I took a spot from someone more worthy. I thought I was going to do a horrible job. Now I almost in a sense lost my dream, because when it was my dream, I imagined how great I'd do. And now so this is how I felt. In fact, I was so worked up over this in the first episode. If you watch, I actually threw up. Like, I literally I threw up. They broadcast it to 10 million people, right? Really lovely. Right? And I spent the whole really first part of the game almost just waiting for tomorrow, playing this waiting game of I'm not enough today. I'm not enough. Just get me through to tomorrow. Tomorrow I can be something. Tomorrow I can do it, right? And then I had this really pivotal moment where I was supposed to do this swimming challenge. It was 3 weeks into the game. We really hadn't eaten in 3 weeks, and we had this opportunity to win a feast on a yacht. And to win this feast, we were divided into 2 teams, and my part of this challenge was we were in the middle of the ocean. I had to dive off this dock, swim to this giant ladder, climb up this ladder, jump in the ocean, swim to a buoy, untie some keys that were like 10 feet underwater and come out, right? I have to do all this stuff. I'm 46 years old and I got to do it against a Marine who's like 15 years younger than me.
Oh my God.
And I am freaking out. I'm like, I can't do it. We're going to lose this challenge. We're going to lose the feast on the yacht. We're not going to eat because of me. And I'm like freaking out. And one of my teammates, who was a firefighter, an absolutely amazing human being, he looked me right in the eye and he said, Chrissy, just dive in and swim your little heart out. Like, it was that easy to him. He said, just dive in and swim your little heart out. And in that moment, I realized it didn't matter what happened. What mattered was that I dove in and that I swam my little heart out. And so I remember Jeff Probst said, Survivor's ready, go. And I dove in, and all I thought about was, I'm just going to swim my little heart out. And I swam as fast as I could, and I ran up that ladder, and I jumped in, and I went underwater, and I untied the keys, and I remember coming up for air, and they were all screaming, Chrissy, you're winning. Chrissy, you're winning. And I won that leg. And that was such a huge moment for me. And almost like, this is what I'll leave everyone with. But you are enough. And when you finally feel like enough, then you will be. Like, I went on after that moment that I was like, wow, I can do this. I actually went on to win enough challenges to tie a Survivor record for wins by women in the entire game. And I was 46 years old, and the next oldest person to do that was 29. So,
wow.
I really came home feeling like I am going to stop doubting myself. I do have something to add. I am valuable. And, I think it's, again, this whole idea of people view us according to what we put out to them. So stop putting yourself down. Stop thinking that you're not enough. That was a really, really big lesson for me that, that I took that one to heart.
Well, that's really powerful. Yeah. A lot of times people don't get the chance to really see what they're made of, I guess you could say, really push through.
Yeah, hopefully your listeners, if they're not feeling good about themselves or whatever, just stop and think about all the great things. Everyone adds value. Everyone is special in their own way. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's what I'll leave you with.
Well, that is perfect. Yes, we mentioned that before the show, everyone. We usually ask people their final thoughts, and that.
Yeah, that's what I'll leave you with. It took me 6 weeks of not showering to figure that one out. So I'm saving everyone from that. Now, you know what? Let me just add one more thing.
Sure.
I did not win the game. So, and what's interesting is people will say to me now, oh, I'm so disappointed. And I think, don't be disappointed. Like, I feel like such a winner. I didn't win $1 million. I didn't win the game. I came in second place, right? But sometimes it's just even just a reframing of, I am so thankful that I got to play. I am so thankful that I had that experience. I'm so thankful that I've had all the experiences that I've had in my life. So, sometimes it's a little bit of that too. Like, I still feel like a winner, even though I did not win.
Well, that makes sense considering what you did and what you accomplished and just the experience itself that you now have that has helped you to have a different perspective than,
right.
The
$1 million would have been nice.
Well, of course.
But oh well.
Well, of course, but but there's the whole thing and your persistence and everything to want to be on the show and looking at the whole picture of it has to definitely been a life-changing event. So.
Yeah, no, it really was. It really was. So.
Yeah. Well, wow. That's fantastic and wonderful story, and I'm so glad you were able to join us to share all of that.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. You are just fantastic. You are so wonderful. So I really had a lot of fun talking to you. Yes, see? You did winning conditions.
Yay. So everyone, that sounds done.
I know. Oh my gosh. So great.
Thank you so much for joining us, Christine. It's been wonderful.
You're welcome. Thanks, Deb.
Okay, everyone. As I always say, I know that you enjoyed this conversation. Please be sure to share it on social media and check out Christine's book and her website and, definitely take all this wonderful advice to heart. So once again, it's for Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you again next time. Bye. Thanks for joining us. You can also join in the conversation on Facebook.com/Women Entrepreneurs and on the website, WomenEntrepreneurSecrets.com. And don't forget to listen in on dvcoach.podomatic.com and on iTunes.